Good morning and welcome to the Greater Cleveland Food Bank's first town hall on our COVID-19 response efforts. I'm Krista Morzoka. I have the privilege of serving as the president and CEO of the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, and I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. As I was looking over the RSVP list yesterday for today's town hall, I was humbled by the number of people who have joined us today, from our partners on the front lines of hunger relief, to very generous donors, to longtime volunteers, to community leaders. And we are grateful to each and every one of you for your support. If I started recognizing people one by one, we'd be here all morning. And so in the interest of time, please just know how much you are making possible through your partnership with the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. It's good to be together this morning, albeit virtually, to share our collective progress and work and to tell you what we've been up to for the last 5 months or so. I want to start our presentation today by recognizing and by thanking our staff. Each and every one of them is an essential worker, providing healthy food to 1,000 agencies in a 6-county service area. Our community food distribution center has been open and operational since the very first day of this pandemic. We have jobs here that can't be done remote. Our drivers, our order pickers, our kitchen team, and so many others have showed up each and every day bravely and determined and passionate to make sure that the growing number of people who need us are served. I am enormously grateful. They've also been flexible and wonderful problem solvers when traditional methods of food distribution have just not been safe or haven't been sufficient to meet the new levels of need in our community. They've been developing new programs, tweaking them as we go along, and doing everything in their power and in our power to live up to our mission, to make sure that everyone in our community has nutritious food every day. I'm also grateful to all of you, our board, our donors, our supporters. You know, the fact is that the way our community has stepped up has been the silver lining in some really long and difficult days. Knowing that you were by our side and behind us has made this work possible and has made millions more meals available to Northeast Ohioans in this very difficult time. I want to thank Governor Mike DeWine. He responded early in the pandemic to a request from the Ohio Association of Food Banks, 12 food bank CEOs from across our state who saw what was happening and knew that we needed more support. At our request, he sent in the Ohio National Guard, and they have been absolutely lifesavers. In the first few weeks of this pandemic, we experienced a number of things. The first was that 1,400 volunteers canceled right here in Cleveland. You know, school groups and corporate groups just weren't coming together. And those volunteers are critically important to what we do every day, even in the best of times. Food donations plummeted. We rely on millions, tens of millions of pounds of donated food a year from the food industry. Much of this is surplus product, but when grocery store shelves are empty, that has an impact on the amount of food that's available to food banks. And at the same time, of course, the need was skyrocketing. And we simply could not have responded in the way that we did without the National Guard, who replaced volunteers in the short term, who built our capacity, and were right next to us on the front lines. At our first drive-through distribution here at the food bank on March 16th, we served 1,200 families, which was almost a new record in the monthly produce distributions we've been doing for years. We knew that we were going to need to do one again. And by the next week, we were serving 1,600 families. Cars snaked around our building, lines backed up for miles. Traffic copters hovered overhead, trying to figure out what was causing the enormous traffic backup on the Shoreway. And the fact is, it was folks waiting in line for food at the food bank. Thanks to the city of Cleveland, we were able to move the next weekly distribution to the Muni lot. And again, the numbers jumped, 2,800 families. And then we hit a high of 3,600 families, 10,000 people in just 1 week. And the Guard it simply wouldn't have been possible without them. They made sure that we had the manpower and the woman power to respond. I also want to thank our members of Congress because the fact is they have provided significant food resources over the last couple of months, which have really allowed us to meet additional demand. We've gotten more food from the Emergency Food Assistance Program, which has been an enormous help, as well as additional flexibility in the way that we run and implement some federal programs like child nutrition programs to allow us to do that more safely for our team and also for the kids that we serve, as well as to provide additional access to the many, many children who need help right now more than ever. You know, the fact is, on Monday, I had the chance to meet with Senator Rob Portman, who dropped by at the food bank. We had a really nice visit, told him about what we've been up against in the last 5 months, and talked about the fact that while so many of these programs have been critical to our success, we are going to need continued support. The federal budget ends September 30th, but the need is not going away. The turnout in our Muni lot is really a reflection of what's happening in our community. And over the course of the last couple of weeks, we've actually seen the numbers tick back up. We had been serving on average about 1,700 families a week in the Muni lot. The last 3 weeks, they've begun to climb again to about 2,300 families at yesterday's distribution. And we believe that is in large part because families who've been able to get by thanks to their extra $600 a week in unemployment benefits are in a whole new place now. You know, that extra $600 a week was paying rent, it was paying for food, it was paying for other basic necessities. And so we have people who are still new to and turning to us for help. So that support from the federal government and the state of Ohio and the National Guard absolutely must continue in the year ahead. Since March 15th, we've served 30,000 new families with our network of partner agencies. That's 29% of all the families that are being served who are turning to us for the first time. And in many cases, because they've not needed emergency food before, they don't know where to go. And so we've been encouraging anyone who's in need of food in our community to call our help center. That number is 216-738-2067. Every single caller is going to be greeted with warmth and compassion and love by an extraordinary team of people who care so much about making sure that everyone in our community gets connected to services. Whether we're directing callers to an open agency in their neighborhood or helping them apply for SNAP benefits or other public benefits, or connecting them to another partner who can help address some of their challenges contributing to food insecurity. Our team is here and available, and we want to help. So please help us spread the word about our help center. Again, it's 216-738-2067. I'm excited today because I have the chance to introduce you to some of our amazing leaders here at the food bank, as well as a community leader who's running one of our partner agencies. Before I do have one important housekeeping item to share. We will be answering questions today from viewers who have tuned in. And so if you have a question, please don't hesitate to put it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. At the end of the presentation, we'll be reading those questions aloud and doing our very best to answer them. Now, I'd like to turn it over and I'd like to introduce Jessica Morgan. Jessica is our VP of Agency Services and Programs. She's been with the food bank for 8 years now. How the time has flown by. And Jess leads all of our efforts with our 1,000 plus partner programs and agencies, as well as developing new programs to meet community need. She has been a shining star along with her team throughout this pandemic. Early on, she told us all we were going to need to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, and we have been quoting her ever since, responding on a dime to changing circumstances, and her leadership has been critical. I'll turn it over to Jess Morgan. Good morning, Jess.
Great. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
You can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kristen. I appreciate the introduction and, of course, appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you today. I'm going to touch on just a few ways that we have gotten comfortable with the uncomfortable, as Christian mentioned, and really adapted to these ever-changing times. And so when the pandemic hit mid-March and schools started to close, we knew that we had to really adjust and think differently about how we served children. We had almost 100 Kids Cafe partners in operation at the time. That number plummeted to 9 in a matter of days. And so that left thousands and thousands of children without food. We worked very closely with a number of community nonprofits and school systems, specifically Cleveland Public Schools and Parma City Schools, to provide backpacks to children who needed them most. In a typical year, pre-COVID year, the food bank typically provides about 4,000 to 4,500 backpacks a week. That number skyrocketed to over 9,000 a week in just a matter of days. And so our team really adjusted and changed how we did things to make sure that we could accommodate children having access to meals. As we approached, we knew that we were going to have to do things differently. So the food bank has a community kitchen on site where we are providing meals for our after-school programs, for seniors, and for meals for children over the summer. Typically, we have over 100 summer feeding sites open, and we knew we were not going to hit that number for very obvious reasons. So we had to do things differently. In a matter of weeks, our team, as Kristen mentioned at the beginning, completely adapted, became very flexible, and thought of a new way to serve children. We wanted to make sure that we were able to fill gaps where sites were not going to be operating. So we were able to use 2 existing food bank vehicles, one of them being our outreach truck in partnership with our wonderful outreach team, and another being a truck from our fleet. And we established 16 different locations across Cuyahoga County where we were able to go every week, and still are going, this is still continuing as we talk about it today, and provide thousands of children with access to healthy meals and also with access to backpacks. So we are really, really proud of that. We talk about how during this pandemic, we have put plans into place that we would typically write into a strategic plan and budget for, and really, really take our time in again, a pre-COVID time period. But the group of people here at the food bank everywhere, and everybody from our programs team to our outreach team to our kitchen, fleet, and communications team, worked in a matter of weeks to implement a program essentially where we were able to go out and meet that immediate need in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks. It was incredible to see that teamwork happen, and I am so proud of our staff. As we plan for the fall, we know that there is still a lot of unknowns out there. School systems are not returning. They're going back virtually. And so as we think about after school feeding, we know that could look a little bit different. We are working very, very closely with Cleveland Metropolitan School District. We talk to them multiple times a week. And really our intention is to be as helpful as possible and as flexible as possible. We want to make sure that children have access to meals that they need. It's imperative. We have a very, very important role to fill in the community. And so our goal is to really help our community partners meet that need where they are right now. These are unprecedented times. None of us have ever experienced this, many of us in our lifetime, and hopefully never will have to again. But we just know that we have to be open to new ideas and really think on our feet. And I'm so grateful for our team that we've been able to do that. We do start our after-school feeding program back up this fall. We are, if there's any partners out there that are looking to serve a need, you can reach out to any of us. You can ask in the Q&A. We'd be glad to elaborate on that a little bit more. But we also know that it could look a little bit different. We are very grateful to have the support of our advocacy team and wonderful advocates across the state and at the federal level who have allowed for waivers to be passed where we can pass out grab-and-go meals. Typically, children have to consume meals on site, both for summer and after school feeding. And with the help of these waivers, we have been able to establish a grab and go meal pattern where children can come and grab a bagged lunch and take it right home with them. And even parents can come and pick up meals on behalf of their children. So this has allowed for safe meal distribution practices, social distancing, and in our team, especially over the summer, we've been doing a really good job of wearing our masks and having hand sanitizer and practicing those social distancing skills as we distribute those meals off of the trucks. In addition to children, another big focus area for the food bank is seniors. And we know that so many seniors have really struggled during this pandemic. Many seniors cannot leave their home because they have immune compromised health systems. And so accessing food in a traditional manner has become very difficult. Seniors who traditionally could get to the grocery store haven't been able to. Seniors who traditionally visited a senior market or a food pantry haven't been able to. And so through our help center, we have fielded hundreds of thousands, I shouldn't say hundreds of thousands, thousands of phone calls for seniors who are homebound, who cannot get out to get the food that they need, who don't have anybody to come and pick up food on their behalf and drop it off. So with the help of the National Guard, another big thank you to the National Guard, we've been able to do some grocery delivery to homebound seniors who need it the most. We continue to partner with the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging to provide meals to seniors in need. We've been doing more frozen meals lately to assure that grab and go option is available. And we will continue to be flexible in this space too. We know that seniors are a very vulnerable population, and it is our goal to meet them where they are as well. So these are just a couple of highlights of things that we've been doing for some very targeted populations. Our partner agencies are working so hard. We are so grateful for everything that they have done and ways that they've adapted, switching to contactless distributions and drive-through distributions and completely changing the way that they serve their community in a matter of minutes has been really unbelievable. We'll hear a little bit more from one of our partners in a few minutes, but we are so grateful for everything that they have done. And we just continue to encourage and be flexible and really help our team internally, but also our partners with the capacity that they need to serve their clients and their community during this very, very difficult time.
Thank you so much, Jess, for your leadership. You know, grab and go meals are just a wonderful example of how the governor and the state and our members of Congress have helped us advocate for these waivers to allow more children to be served and also to be able to do that more safely. Bringing children together 50 at a time to a congregate meal site is just not a safe way of providing meals right now. But when we can do them grab and go style, either drive through or bike up, as I saw at a recent one of our distributions in Lakewood, it makes a huge difference. And so our advocates matter, and our public officials who have helped make that possible really matter to us too. Next, I'm going to introduce to you Dwayne Brake, our VP of Operations here at the Food Bank. You don't often see Dwayne on camera. He's usually out in our warehouse, making sure that the trains are running on time and on schedule. Dwayne has worked his way up through the organization, and we are so lucky to have him leading our operations team during this challenging time. One of the great things of having the experience of having done multiple jobs here is that he knows how to do it all. He can pick an order, he can make a delivery, just about anything that needs to be done, and he leads with great passion. So my privilege to turn the presentation to Dwayne Brake. Good morning, Dwayne.
Morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Well, thank you for the introduction. I just want to take a few minutes to discuss how the pandemic has shifted the way we operate. Our distribution efforts traditionally has been around providing food to our network of partner agencies to distribute to individuals who access emergency food. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we've modified several operating methods to better respond to the community. The drive-through distributions at the Muni Lot has been a success and a great example of our ability to adapt. To date, we're still averaging, as Kristen mentioned, 1,700 cars each week, and over the past few weeks, there has been a spike to over 2,300 visiting the Muni Lot. At the distribution, there's been a great variety of product that we've been able to make available to individuals who needed access to food. Some of those items included shelf-stable product, fresh produce, bread and dairy that we provide consistently each week. The shelf-stable boxes of food, they're packed at our volunteer center at the food bank with the coordination of our amazing repack team and the assistance of the National Guard. 7,000 boxes are packed weekly, and a portion of that is sent to the Muni lot to complement the other items that we mentioned earlier. The creation of the shelf-stable boxes, they also allowed our agencies to remain open to help perform a safe, no-contact distribution method while efficiently serving patrons that are in need. When the stay-at-home order was in effect, our ability to intake volunteers was severely impacted. Being assigned 70 members of the National Guard has truly been critical to the success of our ability to adapt and really respond well. The National Guards, they've served in a variety of roles here at the food bank to help us with our distribution efforts. The 7,000 weekly shelf-stable boxes that are made available is also through the assistance of the National Guard. As Jess mentioned earlier, the 9,000 boxes of backpacks that are being packed each week to support the Backpacks for Kids program has also been the help of the National Guards. In addition to performing home deliveries, they've also assisted with processing orders in the warehouse and even the transportation functions and assisting with some of the home deliveries. And can't leave out assisting the Muni lot distributions from week to week. We've been fortunate to have a few members of the National Guard who's also worked from the logistics division. They share some great information with myself and our team to help improve our operating methods, and we will continue to use that information even after their departure. We know a time will come where the Guardsmen will need to resume their normal duties, so we've initiated the process of transitioning volunteers back into the food bank, but also to our community distributions. We've put numerous safety guidelines in place to ensure our staff and volunteers are safe and well. We know the need is not decreasing, and volunteers are a critical part of the process to maintain our ability to continue providing emergency food relief. If you're looking for ways to get involved, please consider the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. You can check the website at www.greaterclevelandfoodbank.org to see which shifts are available. The help of the volunteers is truly critical to the success of us really responding well to the community.
Thanks, Dwayne. Dwayne is a humble leader who you will never hear complain. One of the challenges that he and his team have been working within over the course of the last 6 months is some pretty serious space constraints here at our facility. We have been planning since our last strategic plan in 2018, knowing that we needed additional capacity and that at some point, some sort of expansion would be necessary. We've tripled our distribution since we moved in here. But of course, this all became more urgent with the additional need and the additional food we're providing right now in response to the pandemic. In addition to distributing food out of our current food distribution center, Dwayne and team are also keeping tabs on product we have stored in offsite dry storage, in offsite frozen storage, and on, I think we're up to 5 trailers in the back of our parking lot. That makes things more complicated, but they are doing an incredible job trying to make sure we never are saying no to donated food or available food when our community needs it really so desperately. So thank you, Dwayne, for that as well. Our next and final guest is Rick Kemp, who I know that some of you will recognize. I have known Rick for years as a community leader in the nonprofit space and always admired his passion for our work. He's been leading the May Dugan Center for 12 years now, one of our amazing partner agencies that serves the Detroit Shoreway neighborhood and beyond. And at the beginning of this pandemic, we had, frankly, hundreds of agencies who had to shut their doors for safety reasons or because they were serving seniors congregate meal style, or they were distributing food out of a school, or simply because they were run entirely by senior citizens who couldn't go out safely. But we had other agencies who were able to stay open and who stepped up in extraordinary ways, and May Dugan, without a doubt, is one of them. So I want to thank and recognize Rick for his leadership. You and your team have been rock stars throughout this, and turn it over to Rick so you can learn a little bit more about life on the front line, so to speak. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Kristen, and good morning to everybody. First of all, I want to thank the Greater Cleveland Food Bank and Kristen for her leadership. It's been amazing, and of course, as everybody knows, it's been a very challenging time for all of us. Since the pandemic started and when Governor DeWine issued the mandatory mandates, the May Dugan Center quickly adapted to ensure that we were meeting the needs of the community and the safety of our clients, our staff, and our volunteers. One thing that has really resonated with me during the past 6 months is the generosity of our donors and the outpour of volunteers who have stepped forward to assist with the food distribution program. Since March, over 100 of our neighbors and friends have joined our team to assist with packing of bags of groceries and produce and assisting on the day to distribute the bags to the cars. It's just been an amazing, just amazing. I also want to acknowledge Matthew 25 Ministries, who have both supported May Dugan as well as the food bank. They delivered over 35,000 pounds of personal protection equipment, toiletries, and other essential items, cleaning supplies that our clients are so grateful for. We've done several distributions, and our clients have been so receptive to all of those additional items. In addition to our food program, we have many clients that have also benefited from our behavioral health program. Many people are experiencing anxiety because of the pandemic. And so people can come to May Dugan for mental health counseling, as well as for substance use disorder and other case management types of needs. So we've been very, very busy, not only with the food program, but with our other wraparound services. I am going to turn it over to my Deputy Director, Andy Treris, who oversees our food distribution program and has done a tremendous job. And to all of my staff here at the May Dugan Center who has stepped forward, who has come in on Sundays to help pack bags and work in the evening hours to ensure that our clients are being served. So this is Andy Treris.
Good morning, everyone. So yeah, so for our food distribution program here at the May Dugan Center, we back in mid-March, we had to change format quickly. I love Kristen's words of adaptability and creativity because we've had to do both. We had to do both very quickly. And so in the span of about a week, we completely changed the format of our distributions from a 300-person in-person food pickup, where we served 300 families, to a couple different formats. It was really important to us to make sure that we were not missing anyone. And so we decided to switch kind of the bulk of our distribution over to a drive-through format. But then we also added the following day, a pickup day for non-drivers. So those who are in the neighborhood and walking or taking public transit, we didn't want them to be left out of food as well. And so we added a second distribution day the following day where folks could pick up those items as well. In addition to that, we also established for the first time a small delivery program where we were able to deliver to about 60 to 75 seniors each round of distributions. So those are folks that have health conditions or are just generally vulnerable, who were unable to get to us. And so we were able to provide those folks with food as well. And we've continued to do that as well. And so since March 25th, which was our first round of distributions, we've provided over 210,000 meals. And so as a point of reference, in all of 2019, we provided 135,000 meals. So in the past 5.5 months or so, we've provided significantly more than we did in all of last year. And so our peak was back in mid-April. And so when everything was new and people were staying at home and a lot of folks were laid off, we saw a significant increase in our numbers, and we were serving over 950 families per round of distributions. And so, which was like about triple what we were doing. And then some of the federal stimulus checks came and extra payments for food stamps, as well as the $600 a week unemployment benefits. And once those started to kick in, our numbers did kind of trail off or level off a little bit, around double what we would normally do. So in the 600, 700 families per week range. But since then, similar to the food bank, we've seen that number tick back up over the past few weeks. So just this week, we're probably in the range, we'll be up about 10%. We've had a round of distributions this week. And so we're up about 10% and anticipating that potentially going up even as we move into the fall. And so one thing that's been really important, in addition to the work that we've done here at May-Dugan, is all the collaborations that we've done. It wouldn't have been essential to respond in the way we have without the wide variety of community partners that we've worked with. And so through some of those have included through the retail donation program at the food bank, we've been picking up food from Heinen's to supplement our food that we're able to get into the community. With the Cleveland City of Cleveland Police 4th District over on the east side, over off of Kinsman, we were able to work with the officers to deliver food to 75 seniors. We did that a couple times. So we delivered food directly to them as well. One thing that we did with that was, it was early on in the pandemic, late, about mid-April or so. And so we included masks in everybody's bag. And when we've gone back and checked on those folks and visited those folks on their front porches, they've all had that same mask that we gave them very early on. And so we were really proud to be able to get both food as well as an essential thing like masks into the community for those who particularly need it. As I mentioned, we had a round of distributions this week, and I had the pleasure of working the registration line on Wednesday as we were going through the process. And I got a chance to talk to a lot of different folks. And generally, the folks who we're seeing kind of fall into two categories. One, a lot of our clients are either older or on disability, and so they have a fixed income. And so they have been particularly impacted by the pandemic because they've been really feeling the stress and the strain of being vulnerable to the coronavirus and really the uncertainty that comes with that. I was talking with one woman, Linda, who reached out after the distribution to thank us for the food and the cleaning supplies we were able to provide this week. And she said that, you know, it's essential for her on a fixed income to get these supplemental items. And, you know, as we've known for a long time, pre-pandemic as well as now, that people have to choose, people have to make a lot of tough choices between food and healthcare, between food and education, food and rent. And so by being able to provide food, we make those choices just a little bit easier. So it's just one less thing that they have to figure out, that the money that they would have spent on food can go towards keeping them and their family housed. The other type of client that we've seen, and we've definitely seen a significant increase, are those that are coming to us for the first time or who were working and stable and making ends meet, who no longer are. So we've also, particularly with that, you know, I was talking with one family where 4 people in the household, one person was the sole breadwinner, and he got laid off and then has since gone back to work in the past few weeks, but he's only half-time. And so it's really created a strain on the family. And so they were actually back for the first time since April, because it's just the ongoing lack of income in the family has really put a strain on them. And then lastly, the last thing I wanted to touch on was that looking ahead to this fall, you know, we've thankfully been able to continue the work that we've done. Initially there, it felt like a sprint, like we were doing everything we could to respond quickly. We have since settled into more of a marathon. And so we're here for the long haul. And so we've, through support, through some CARES Act funding, through the City of Cleveland, we've been able to expand the capacity of our program and the team here at May-Dugan so that we can continue to sustain this level of food distributions through the fall. And really all of this has been essential, as I mentioned, with the collaborations, but particularly with the food bank. There was a period of time there where we were on the phone with somebody from the food bank, either from the produce team or figuring out something with the registration system or whatnot. We were talking to them every day. And so really have appreciated the support from the food bank and really how folks have stepped up and adapted, both here at May-Dugan and at the food bank and really across the pantry, the network of food providers.
That's very, very good. Thank you, Andy. Kristen, again, I want to thank you, and I want to acknowledge all of our all the other food pantries out there. I know there are several hundred in the 6 or 7 county jurisdiction that you have. You have a big responsibility, and I know all the other food pantries are doing a really good job as well. It's been an honor to be with you today, and it's an honor to be a partner with you. Thank you for your leadership and to all of your staff and volunteers at the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick and Andy. We so appreciate your partnership. And you're right, there are hundreds of agencies out there who've been working so hard throughout this pandemic. Many of them are on the phone today or are tuning in virtually. And we are just so grateful and inspired by their hard work and determination. And it's a privilege to partner with all of you all year long, but particularly now. So we've had questions coming in. Thanks for your patience as you've been putting questions in the Q&A section, and we're going to go ahead and read these aloud. I've got a few that have come in over the course of our conversation, and Karen Posner, our Director of Communications, will hand me more if more get loaded in for the remaining time that we have. The first question is, how does the food bank provide 4 meals for $1? And have we had to spend more money on food during the pandemic? The way we're able to provide 4 meals for $1 in a normal year is that 50% of the food that comes in is donated to us. So we can bring that in at no charge. We also get food from the state of Ohio and the federal government, which comes to us for free. And then we do a little bit of food purchasing with the help from volunteers who donate their time. 21,000 individual volunteers last year were able to use donated food and donated time and donated dollars to be incredibly efficient. And all 3 of those things work together. Now, the second question, have costs gone up? I'll tell you at the end of our fiscal year. It's been interesting to see though, at the beginning when food donations plummeted, because of really demands on our food system nationwide, we had to buy food to make up. We have significantly increased the amount of food that we would buy in a typical year. We bought 3.7 million pounds of food in the course of the last 5 months or so. Much of that buying was done early on to make sure that we didn't run out of food at the food bank, that agencies like May Dugan and so many others had access to food here. We knew that the shelves at the food bank could not be empty under any circumstances. Now, more recently, we've been thrilled to see some additional food coming in from the federal government and from the state of Ohio. And so we've been able to roll back a little bit on some of the purchasing we're doing. We're still doing some of it, of course, for programs for which we need specific items like our community kitchen and our Backpack for Kids program. But we have really been taking advantage of any donated, although those numbers are still down, but certainly federal food that's been available. The federal government rolled out a new program, which I think we began seeing food from that program in May, called the Farm to Families program, to buy surplus commodities from farmers and to distribute them through nonprofit agencies. And so we've been getting free boxes of fresh produce, dairy, and meat items. Ever since May, we've been working with our partner network to distribute about 20,000 of those boxes a week. They've been incredible. And so that will bring our costs back down. And so I suspect at the end of the year, we'll still be about $1 for 4 meals. I'm hopeful. But if that changes, it is certainly because of all of the purchased food that we've bought. And frankly, it's made possible by so many of you who've been generous donors. And we appreciate your confidence in us and the flexibility to use dollars during this pandemic as we have needed them most, because the fact is the needs have changed on a regular basis. The next question is, what do we need the most, and do we accept canned goods? And I'll tell you that it's financial contributions here at the food bank and also across our agency network that are the most powerful right now, because they give us the most flexibility. And as I just said in the last answer, early on we had to buy food. Later, what we were doing was buying PPE and hand sanitizers and gloves, and paying for overtime. And so, the needs change, and paying for boxes to pack food into. And so, the needs change over time, but a financial contribution gives us all that flexibility. We do, of course, because we're a food bank, accept food donations all the time. And so you could also go to our food bank for more information how to donate food. And we're also always looking, as Dwayne said earlier, we're now looking for volunteers and we're looking for advocates to help us spread the word. You can find out how to do all of those on our website at www.greaterclevelandfoodbank.com. The next question I'm going to toss to Jess. You can speak about this most eloquently, I know. Can you explain what the Backpack for Kids program is, what backpacks are, and what typically goes into a backpack?
Absolutely. So our Backpack for Kids program is a weekend meal program for children who are in need of food, essentially. So school systems and other nonprofits identify children within their district, within their school, within their program, who they are concerned about having access to meals over the weekend. They let us know how many bags of essentially shelf-stable meals we need to pack, and then we deliver those every week to that local nonprofit or school, and then they distribute those very discreetly to children who need them. So typically in a quote unquote backpack, there's usually fruit, some sort of shelf-stable beverage like milk, juice, peanut butter. It's all shelf-stable items. We have some microwavable items that are easy for children to prepare on their own. And then we've got about 5 or 6 different kits that we rotate in and out. And so children aren't eating the same thing every single weekend. It has been a really helpful program during this pandemic. It's given school districts and nonprofits the flexibility to provide additional meals beyond what they're already doing. And so we're really grateful to be able to provide that program. And again, as I stated earlier, we are anticipating that increased demand to continue. And so we are making plans to appropriately support this program in our next fiscal year.
Great. Thank you, Jess. I'm going to toss another great question your way. This is, would the food bank be willing to coordinate school lunches to refugee children in need during the school year?
Great question. And I read it and I got, it really intrigued me. We are not a part of the National School Lunch Program. We are a part of Kids Cafe, which is an after-school feeding program. But because of some of these great waivers that were put into place, there's definitely some flexibility on meal service time. We were essentially told that we could start serving meals or providing meals after 1 p.m. for that program. So I would love to talk to you more about that. I'm going to give my email address out. And so anybody wants to reach out about a similar question or completely different question after today, feel free to. My email address is jmorgan, M-O-R-G-A-N, @clevelandfoodbank.org.
Thank you, Jess. And I just want to reinforce the fact that the Greater Cleveland Food Bank and our partner agencies provide food to anyone who is in need of food. So please don't hesitate. The next question is related to people who speak English as a second language and how they can connect with food bank services. I would encourage anyone speaking English as a second language to also call our help center. We have Spanish speaking team members who are available on the phone, and we also work with a number of community partners on translation services to try to make sure that, again, anyone who has needs has those needs met. That number is 216-738-2067. Dwayne, we've got a viewer who's interested in knowing what sort of protocols have been put in place for those who want to volunteer at the food bank. Can you share?
Absolutely. Our team has put a lot of thought into this over the past few months, even before volunteers were being transitioned back into the food bank. And starting at the very top from our website, when you take a look at our website, there's been an overhaul that really restructured the way we intake volunteers. So our orientation process has now been transitioned to a virtual process. It also goes over some safety guidelines as well to make sure that you meet the criteria to volunteer. Once you're on site, we've actually restructured our volunteer space as well to accommodate social distancing. So some of the things that we've taken into measures, we've installed a new hand washing station in our volunteer space that would accommodate more individuals for hand washing. You will see floor decals that are also marked on the floors as well to also help promote social distancing. We have a lot of modular equipment within the volunteer center, which is great. So they've all been placed 6 feet apart, particularly our packing stations, to really promote social distancing and also able to accommodate the appropriate group sizes. We've also tuned down the number of volunteers that we're accommodating in each of our volunteer shifts, just to make sure that we have adequate spacing for our volunteers to be safe. Masks and gloves are required. We do have those upon entry if our volunteers should forget them. to make sure that everyone that's volunteering have a great experience, but most importantly, they're safe while doing so.
Thanks, Dwayne. So important, ensuring the safety of our staff and volunteers. And so we have been incredibly careful about guidelines that have been put in place since the very beginning, which have served us well so far. I have a question that I'm going to toss to Rick. This person wants to know, what is the food banks? But I'd also like to hear your biggest concern over the next 6 months, Rick.
Well, I think some people are going to start going back to work that have been coming into volunteers. So one of my concerns is, as Andy mentioned, that we've seen an uptick in more people coming for assistance. So I really hope that we will continue to receive the outpour of support that we have from our neighbors and other friends to come in and volunteer, because it's a lot of work, as you know, preparing the bags, once the food is delivered from the food bank, we have pallets and pallets of non-perishables, and then when the produce comes, it takes time. It needs to be coordinated, and I think we've done a really good job, but I'm hoping that we get more volunteers. Anything else, Andy? Andy agrees with me?
Thanks for sharing that. As I think about my biggest concern over the next 6 months, it is what we have started to call a commodities cliff. So I mentioned that we've been getting wonderful food from the federal government, this Farm to Families program. We also have been getting, thanks to the CARES Act and FFCRA, we've been getting more food from the Emergency Food Assistance Program. That has helped us increase our distribution to meet rising demand. The demand is still high. There is no doubt about it. The federal year ends September 30th. And as we look out into the future, we had an evening meeting last night with some of our senior leaders here working on our budget for our new fiscal year, which starts October 1st. And we are very, very concerned about what could be a significant decrease in food from the federal government while the need remains high. Last night's projections, as we worked through them, looked as though we could have 6 to 7 million pounds less food available. And that just can't be. That cannot be. And so now we're looking as the next step into how much can we afford to buy to make up for that gap. But we know that that will not be inexpensive. And how much more can we do to advocate to make sure that our elected officials understand that the need doesn't end with the federal fiscal year and that this support needs to continue as long as there are much higher levels of people in need because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is right now something that we're spending a lot of time working on and working to address. Food must be available. We need to make sure it is. So additional questions that have come in. What changes have we made during the pandemic that we could make permanent? Anybody want to take this one? Jazz?
Yeah, I'll try. I'll take a stab at it. So I guess from an internal and external perspective, I'll give kind of my thoughts on both. We'll start externally with our partner agencies. We encourage choice at every opportunity that we can promote. So using May Dugan as an example, when they typically do their produce distributions, they have people walk through the line and they get to choose the items that they want. Right now, that is a challenge because we want to make things as contactless as possible. Now, some sites are making adaptations as they go to still allow for households to choose the items that they want, and we certainly encourage that to the best of the agency's ability and capacity. But I do envision these drive-through style or contactless or home delivered types of distributions to continue at least for the foreseeable future until we can get to a point where, some of these restrictions are lifted and our community is becoming healthier and safer as we move forward. Internally, I think that we have all learned to be so incredibly flexible. It really is amazing. We're an organization that lives and breathes by strategic planning, and that's not going to stop, of course. But we have had to, really do some about faces here and change the way that we've done things for years and years and years. And the adaptability of the staff has been unbelievable. So I envision that continuing well into the foreseeable future, and maybe even forever, because I think that we've learned how to change quickly and how to think really creatively and outside of the box. And if nothing else, I think that this has really helped us to become even more client-centered and client-focused than we ever have before.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think there's a lot that we've learned as an organization and as individuals as we've responded to this pandemic. And I think that when it comes to creativity and a bias for action, that kind of muscle memory is something that will continue to serve us well in the future. What do you think, Rick? Are there things that you're doing differently that you'd like to continue to do differently moving forward?
Well, I think there's going to be a greater need for us to do deliveries to meet the needs of the seniors and other disabled individuals, people who don't have transportation. We've been awarded a grant through the City of Cleveland Department of Community Development through CARES Act funding, which is going to enable us to hire 15 drivers. So that's going to be something new to Maydugan, and I think it's something that's going to be very, very in high demand. So I think Andy agrees with that. So we're looking forward to that. So if anybody is looking for a part-time job to be a part-time driver, call Andy and we'll get you on board. But I see that something that's going to be permanent, or something that we're going to need, and there's going to be a growing need for that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rick. So I'm told this is our last question. We want to be respectful of everyone's time, and it's a good one. The question is, what happens when the National Guard leaves? How will we deal with fewer volunteers due to social distancing? We talk about this daily at the food bank. When the Guard was first assigned to us, it was on a short-term basis. We have asked, requested, advocated, begged for them to be here longer all along the way. We started out with about 75 positions. We did have about 20 soldiers whose last day with us was last Thursday, who went back to their civilian lives. Those soldiers will not be replaced. We're told that we should have about 50 National Guard men and women through September 30th. And then likely they will tail off after that until the end of the year. We've not yet seen that in writing, but it's what we hear. And so we are always planning to work within what we're told, while we, of course, ask and hope that they'll be with us as long as they're needed. 50 National Guard will still be an enormous help, and we are grateful to have that support. We have worked out kinks in some of our new distribution methods, and we have started to bring volunteers back. Due to social distancing requirements in our warehouse, we don't have room to have volunteers and National Guard members in the warehouse at the same time, because we need to keep everyone spread out. And so we've started putting up volunteer shifts in the evening and also on Saturdays. And we've been thrilled by the response to that. I mean, those shifts have filled up really quickly. In addition, over time, we've been incorporating more and more volunteers at our drive-through distributions. And yesterday, we did a drive-through distribution that was run entirely by volunteers with no members of the National Guard, just to make sure we could do it. Now, again, we want them and we need them in the long term, but we're trying to we're testing different things and trying to make sure we're prepared for the day that we don't have them any longer. We will continue to need volunteers. We will need even more volunteers when the National Guard leaves. And so, someday we hope to get groups back. We promise to provide the safest environment we possibly can with all the new things we're doing that Dwayne mentioned. And so if anybody watching wants to bring a group, or you want to come individually, please go to our website. We'd love to have you. All right. Well, in closing, I want to thank our other presenters today, Dwayne and Jess. And I want to thank Rick and your entire team at the Maydugan Center, as well as all of our other partner agencies out there who've been working so hard for the last 5 months. The fact is, we couldn't be doing what we're doing without the extraordinary community support that we have seen from so many of you on this call today. We're grateful for it. We are buoyed by it. It gives us the confidence we need to know that we can do this. We can continue to do this, even in the days and weeks and months and hopefully not years ahead. and we're going to be at this for the long run. So thank you for your continued support. Thanks for tuning in and for watching us today. And if you're out there and you'd like to help in any of the ways that I mentioned, or you'd like to make a contribution, please go to our website, greaterclevelandfoodbank.org. Have a great day, and thank you.